Okay, good afternoon, folks. Here we are live with the Flemish For Beginners race, the Brussels Loop today. Let's see if I can't swing around and see who's on the start line. There we go. Yep, we got there. And this is like a test broadcast. I am having some difficulties with the mouse, as you can see on screen with the jerky movement, because there appears to be a bit of a lag between me moving the mouse and it activating on screen, and it's definitely not the mouse because I've tried different models. So I put in a support ticket. It looks like it's just in spectate mode. But anyway, I'm looking forward to this one. We've got 19 riders signed up. I can see the OTR riders on the start line and a few others. And we're going to be kicking off in about 18 seconds. So this should be good. Looking forward to this one. It's the Brussels Loop, which, as you can see from the profile at the bottom of the screen, it's absolutely pan flat. So this should be a fast affair. And let's see what happens. Now then, let's get to the front of the action. So, and again, the keyboard, there we go, as we watch Shim going off the front. The keyboard also has about a 5 to 10 second delay as well. So swinging the camera around is difficult and using the keyboard. These are all bugs which I hope will get ironed out. This is only version 1 of the new release, so hopefully. Let's see if we can't swing the camera around though. Now normally what I do here is move it from left to right and it swings the camera. There we go. That happened about 8 seconds after I actually did it. So we're going to see behind these riders on the road. Yep, there we go. So I've managed to swing the camera around and we can now see the chasing pack chasing these two riders. So we'll stay with this view for the moment while we watch the action hotting up. Now Shim is a new rider to me, I have to admit, out of Ireland by the look of the flag, I think. Yes, that's the Irish flag. So I say new to me, he's not obviously not new to RGT, but I don't think I've watched him riding before, or certainly racing before. But they've only got a small gap here. They've got a 24-meter gap, and to be honest, Bennett and Keith, yeah, are chasing behind, so we'll see what happens. I expect this to get closed up on this flat course, and in fact, the white dots tell me that that's happening. So there's a couple of risers, like you can see, they went up that 4.8, but it's nothing to speak of. These small risers aren't even going to test the rider's legs. They'll just big ring it over them, and they'll be out of the way in no time. And then on to the next one. But it is a fast course, is this? I think I've ridden it a couple of times. I used to take part in this series, but then I had my illness, and now I'm just not either well enough or fit enough. I've been suffering with a cold all weekend, well, all week, and so I'm not currently racing or riding. I'm struggling to broadcast, if I'm honest. But this is simply a test event, so I'm going to try using the keyboard and see whether we can get it to work. See whether we can get it to pan down through the field. There we go. As we watch my OTR teammate, Mr. Bennett. Who's that following on behind him? That's Keith, the other rider. So there's Adrian. Got Erolt. And I think we've got, is it Keith? Yeah, there's Keith highlighted at the moment. We know Merlet. We've seen him racing before. Marin, I've seen him racing before. So yeah, many of these riders are regulars. I won't say regular to this event, but certainly regulars racing on T. Work his way through the field. Gallant is 20 metres behind and trying to close the gap. Sorry, it's clicked a little bit too quickly from him. So see if we can go back. It's a bit difficult to actually gauge when to flick from one rider to the other because you're watching them on screen. You press the button, and then, as I say, there's a 5 to 8, 10-second delay. So it can be very confusing as we pan down through the field. Formatov, the Russian rider. RF, putting in 5 watt kilo effort, but he's dropped by 100 meters. However, if he continues with that that kind of effort, he'll pull it back soon enough. It is difficult to pull back gaps on RGT though once you get dross. As you see, these riders are working with the bot, so they're just quite happily sitting in with the bot. In fact, I think it's just the one rider, Bolts, that using the bot to pull him along at the moment, which is clever thinking. Have a look, what else? So we'll work his way through the bots and see if we can find out who's next on the road. Shani, sorry, that was too quick, as I say again. So Shani's bringing up the rear of the race. I'm in the race, but I'm not actually participating in it. Ignore me. Go back to the front. We see Shim is still leading them out, but we've got Livin's putting in a huge effort to come past and overtake. Now that was a big throwdown of watts to bring this back. Watch Adrian. Yeah, it's a slightly different dynamic with this spectator view now. I used to in the old version I could use the mouse and quickly shift camera views, but I'm a little reluctant to play with the mouse now because of the lag, because it just goes all over the place. So I really hope they manage to sort this. And I'm fairly convinced now, after testing earlier on today, I covered part of the Full Metal Pony, and it was almost unworkable at times. I tried to finish the to cover the finish of the race, and I couldn't even highlight the top 2 riders on the screen, so it totally locked up on me. I'm hoping these little bugs get ironed out and we can return to normal service. Because what I generally do, folks, is I generally swing the cameras around. Like we've got Shim going off the frontier, and you can see the rider behind him. But what I like to do is, and I'm just going to try it now as I'm speaking. But as I'm saying it, it's not going to happen. There we go. And what I try and do is swing the camera around just a little bit, so that there you go, so that we can see the riders behind. Now, it's probably happening okay for you guys and girls out there watching, but for me, it's very, very slow motion. Um, I'm moving the mouse, and then 10 seconds later, the characters on screen are moving, and you could see the glitch there as they went around the corner. Look, so there are some. We're currently running at about 40 frames per second. I am running in ultra, and Damon from ZMS live streams has given me some settings to try in 720, but in reality I just have not had the physical time to get on the machine and change all my settings around. So what I'll do is I'll save this profile so that I can come back to it, and then I'll set up a new profile with the 720 settings and see whether we can get the frame rate up to about 60. and also see whether it's smoother, because I do notice a fair few glitches, and I shouldn't on a machine of this power. I shouldn't be seeing any, because this machine is more than capable of running RGT and streaming and everything else at the highest resolution. I mean, it doesn't look too bad, does it? It looks nice. The scenery looks nice. The quality, when it is running well, the quality looks nice. Let's go back to the front, have a look and see, because we've got Aero now trying to push off the front. And what we got 5 kilometers done, folks. So and this is a looped course. I think it's 4 loop. Yes, it is. It stays on screen. So this is the first of 4 laps. So they basically cover the same terrain. You can tell when the riders are pushing off the front. Let's work his way back down the field and see what's happening further back. Because invariably on a race this fast and this furious, you will get riders lapped at the back of the field. And the only way that you know the lapped riders sometimes is because of the numbers which you get next to their names. We watch Keith and Adrian working together here. Merlet and Marin. These 4 are working well together, and only 30 meters off the front, you know, they can pull that back if they work well together. Take turns, through and off, and they'll get back to the front group. In fact, they are doing, pulling it back now. So we'll stay with this group for a little while and watch the catch. I'll see if I can't just adjust the sure what the control is, but let's try that one. That takes them down. Let me go up. Okay, this used to be, that's better. This used to be second nature, moving the mouse, and now it's not. It takes a lot of hard work. Zooming in, I've just tried to zoom out, so let's see when that takes effect. There you go. Takes effect about 5 seconds later, and you can see the 3 riders in front. They've almost got them back now, so I'm glad I stayed with this action. When it works beautifully. I really like what they've done with this new software. I just find the bugs a little bit hard to commentate on, because it does spoil the action sometimes when I am trying to move the camera. And obviously, if the action's fast and furious and heating up, you know, there's a risk that I'm going to miss it through trying to move the mouse. So I tend to try and leave, when I get a good view on screen like this, I tend to leave it well alone. I mean, zooming in and out is easy. Show you. Here we go. I've zoomed out. Take effect. There we go. Okay, about 5 to 10 seconds later. Again, zoom out a bit more. You can see. So these 6 riders are basically, looks like they've dropped Marin for the time being. He's just off this group. But you can see these 6 riders are going to come together, I think. Probably work together as we watch Merlet overtaking Keith, and Keith will jump on his wheel if he puts in a dig here. There we go. See Keith and Adrian just working together. They need to charge now, though. They need to get onto the group in front. They can't allow, and they've realised that. I mean, not trying to tell them how to race. They know how to race. But they do need to close that gap up. The longer they leave it, the more difficult it's going to get, and especially if the front group can. And here's Marin coming back. Oh, that's nice to see. So Marin's rejoined. I thought he would struggle, but he's rejoined, and in fact, now he's made the classic, although he's on the downhill, so that's probably why he's got all the way through the pack. Because what you should try and do when bringing back group is you should try not to put your power down to the extent that you shoot through the pack and off the front. You should try and time it so that you fall into the middle of the pack and can then take recovery and draft. Because there's no doubt pulling back a gap is hard work, and we call it burning matches, where you've only got so many matches in your box, so there's only so many times you'll get away with pulling back brakes before you crack or you run out of matches. But Marion is obviously strong because he's now pulled off the front, 5 watt kilos. So he's putting in a strong effort here. Some good numbers being produced. All the riders, I mean, the riders at the front are certainly pushing over 4 watt kilos. And who's that dropped off the back now? That looks like Merlet that's dropped off the back. Or is it? No, it looks like Marion again. He's yo-yoing. Now, we saw this earlier in the... get my words out. We saw this earlier in the Full Metal Pony event I covered. Riders yo-yoing to and from the group. And watching the support group, it was obviously brought up in the support group, RGT Cycling Users Support. And one of the riders brought up this issue, and Tim Sinclair suggested it could be something to do with iOS on the phone and it being brought across to the app. So it could be something they can fix if that is what's happening. I mean, we don't know with Marion. Is it a case of he's not having technical issues and this is just him not able to hold the pace? Although looking at the strength of the fellow, I would say that's not the case. I would say that this is a glitch in the system and he's been dropped off and now he has to work his way back. There are issues being reported, and it's not until we get into more events and we see more races taking place like this that we're going to know what the issues and then hopefully the solutions are going to be. But it must be pretty difficult and pretty heartbreaking if through no fault of your own you're constantly being dropped from a group you're with. And as I say, I don't know as that is what's going on here, but looking at the strength of Marion when he was with the group, it looks like that could be an issue. We watch Keith at the back, and he's been dropped off now. And it looks like we've got a lock-up as well. There we you saw that, folks, on screen. So, and Keith is just, he's hardly moving, but it is showing 2.8. Yeah, this... and I'm fairly convinced. I mean, I'll check my analytics later, but I'm fairly convinced, folks, that this is not my machine. This is not at my end. I won't know until I check the analytics after the ride, but I'm pretty sure this is an RGT thing, and it's not. There we go again, look. Freewheeling on the down. No, he's not. He's actually doing 5 watt kilos. So, super ride and see what's happening in front. There we go. So we've got second, third, and fourth here. Go to our leader and see if we can find out who's pulling them along at the moment. It looks like Livens. Yeah. Livens has got a 30-meter gap. And it won't be until, and he's putting in some good wattage here as well. It won't be until we talk about this in the forums that we find out which riders were having issues. Now this is a beginner's race. We're seeing some very high wattages from the riders, but that's over threshold efforts and they can't maintain those efforts. So you're not going to see riders putting in those kind of huge efforts constantly. But he has pulled out now a nice gap of almost 90, well, 80 meters he's got at the moment. And the group behind are trying. Let's go to them, see if we can highlight the chasing riders. There we go. And these three riders are trying to pull him back. They've got it down to 75 now, and it's coming back slowly. So maybe they will rejoin him. Does look like a significant gap. I mean, the graphic on the bottom of the screen that you can see the white paddle. Well, that's the currently highlighted rider, which in this case is Shim. And then the dots that you can see around him are the other riders. But then you can see a rider, a dot well into the front of these riders. And that basically is the leader of the race livings. And it means I can follow him without actually having to change camera view and look at him. I can see where he is on the course. And consequently, which I'm going to do now, if I go further back down the field and look at the riders further down the field, is exactly what I'm pressing the buttons to do now. You can see that Adrian and who's that with Adrian? Marin, the rider that was previously up with the group. These two riding together, you can see that now the paddle has shifted to further down the field, but I can still keep an eye on what's happening, action-wise by looking at the white dots of the riders in front. So it is a good system. This I like the dots and the paddle idea for knowing where you are when you're looking at people in the race. And it means that you can basically determine where the groups are on the road and keep an eye on folks. We watch Gallant and Homertov working together. Small gap. There we go. Homertov is just getting on the wheel and going to work, hopefully, with Gallant. They work together. We switch views. And these are what we got. 1, 2, 3 bots and a real life rider, Bolts, the German. So he's I think is it a he or is it a she? Is basically using it's a he. Common sense to try and stick with the bots. But the bots ride at a set wattage. You never change the wattage that they're riding at. And sometimes it can be pretty hard to maintain. I mean, he's got to really close this gap and get on the wheels. Otherwise, he's going to. And there's the last rider on the road, RF. Don't know his real name, but he's helping bots get back to these bots. And this is what they need to do. They need to stay with the bots, because the bots will be programmed at different weights, which is why you've got Caroline doing 2.7, Jan, in fact, all three of them are doing 2.7, so they're all three programmed at 2.7 watts. They do occasionally change those watts, the bots, but only when the terrain changes. If they're on the flat, then it's a constant 2.7. That would never change. So let's work his way back up the field again Omyatov has now been dropped by Gallant. He's fallen behind 15 meters, although he's closing up the gap. See if he makes the catch. Yes, he's making the catch to Gallant. So one of the things that's making commentary really difficult, and it was particularly difficult on the event I covered earlier, the Full Metal Pony, is you don't know whether the dropping off is down to issues with the software or issues with the rider. Because look at Gallant putting in a big effort here and opening up a gap. So, you know, I don't like to sort of like say, oh, everything's down to the software, because it definitely isn't. Sometimes it's a rider that's just not able to maintain set pace or a change in pace. But there are bugs in the system. I mean, I'm highlighting a few. Certainly the mouse and keyboard is a definite series of bugs that need to be fixed, because when I press a key on the keyboard, it's very noticeable, the lag, the delay. And I've tried a manual keyboard. I'm currently using a wireless keyboard, but I've tried a manual keyboard plugged into the computer via USB, and I get the same effect. So it's definitely not the keyboard at my end. And the same with the mouse. I've tried a wired mouse and I've tried a wireless mouse, and they both, in fact, the lag is almost identical for both of them. So that tells me it's definitely not a mouse issue on my end. It's a software glitch. Let's see if we can move forward. There's Marin. And it can make switching riders pretty difficult to do, because you press a key and sometimes it doesn't work at all. Sometimes you press a key and it doesn't change the rider, and then you press it again and then it skips forward like two riders. It's really weird. So but I put in a support request this afternoon, support ticket rather, this afternoon, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, let's see if we can catch up with the leader, see how he's looking. Keith from OTR. There's live ins. Now, one of the things we ask in OTR is that if you're riding along and you're hoping for a podium spot, it would be nice, not so much in the beginners races, but certainly as you move up into more openly contested, well, even in the beginners, I suppose, you should really, if you're going for podium spots, be wearing a heart rate monitor, or you should be verified. Now, Keith is a well-known rider, so I have no issue with Keith not wearing a heart rate monitor, but you should really be wearing a heart rate monitor, taking part in events and hoping for a podium spot. See, Shim's working really hard with a high heart rate as well. So he's busy trying to pull this group along and close the gap. I'll be honest, I think the gap is growing. So the Belgium rider Livens, I don't know anything about him. What I might try and do is pull up a web page as we're watching this, see what I can find out about him, see what his Palmares is, because this is a very strong ride from him. And this race is capped at 3.2 watt kilo, so that's another reason why I'm just going to zip away. The watts he's putting out now, this is for the commissaires to have a look at. But the watts he's putting out suggests to me that he's a stronger rider than 3.2, because he very, very rarely that I've seen he's going below 3.2. So we'll see what happens. But and his high end is very high end. So yeah, it looks to me like he's a rider that really shouldn't be riding in this race. But that's not for me. 4.6 watt kilos, you see, and he's not even above threshold. His threshold is about 5 watt kilos. So that Tommy says, if you are listening, you need to look at Liveins because I don't believe he belongs in this race. So I think this is where the winner will come from. I suspect Liveins will be had a look at by the commissaires. And as I say that, I'm just going to pull up a website and see if I can find any results. Go. So just bear with me, folks. I'll leave you with the action while I just have a look at the event and go. That's today's event. Oops. Rune is his name. Rune Livens from yeah, okay. So Rune Livens will be disqualified because he's already had a prior result, 4.06 watt kilos. So forget the leader. I'm not even going to concentrate in now in the rest of this race because he will be disqualified. So I hate it when I have to call out riders, but it was pretty obvious to me just watching. I'm experienced enough, folks, to know, and just watching his watt kilos, I realised that, you know, he didn't belong in this race. So let's get back to the front of the race, and we'll catch up with the action at the front of the race. If it ever changes, there we go. Now I'm not going to concentrate on Livens. I'm not going to give him any more screen time because that he isn't going to be the winner. Now I do know that Merlot is a genuine 3.2 rider. I do know that Keith is. In fact, I suspect all these riders that are left in the race belong in this race category. It became very obvious to me that Livens doesn't. And I'm going to post a message to the group if I can. So let's pull up the chat and just see if we can message the riders in game, and then they're going to know. So chat, there we go. So it will appear on screen, folks, but I just want them to know that come on. There we go. And that. There we go, just to let the guys know. So what I like to do is obviously we don't want the riders chasing him down and burning all their matches, trying to chase down a rider that's gone. So if Liven's seen that message, he may well decide to drop out. He'll probably drop his wattage now. And in fact, he's doing so. So he's trying to be canny and dropping his wattage to something respectable. But if you were watching as I was watching his wattage, it very, very rarely dropped below 3.2, and most of the time was around the 4 mark. So he's dropping his wattage now because obviously he will want to try and come in at 3.2. But my guess is that even if he stayed at around the 3 watt kilo mark now, he wouldn't finish below 3.2. He would finish over. But yeah. And Merlot is putting in a big effort to try and catch him as well. So shall we have a look at, let's have a look at Merlot as well. RGT, see what we, just to make sure. Herve Merlot, they call him. Find his one event. Goes from that event. .22. Well, that's not going to get him a flag rate. Let's have a look at some of his other events. He's right on the border. If he's 3.22 though, he's on the borderline. Let's have a look at some of his other good results. King of the Castle. No, he's above the, Herb Merlot is above the, okay, I'm going to message that out as well because he's also, this is not for me to decide, folks. This is for the commissaires. Commissaires, if you're listening, James or Paul, you need to look at the two riders that are currently out in front because both of them are well over the allowed watt kilos for this race. So let's Merlet, and in fact, Livens has now got that. So there we go. This is the real shame that riders, you know, affect races like this into races that they've no right being in. Now I'm looking at King of the Castle and Merlet finished with a 369. Now, okay, if that was like a one-off, it wouldn't be a problem. But he also has other results that suspect that he, you know, he shouldn't be riding in 3.2. Races. I'm just looking at some of his other. I mean, you guys can and girls can do this as well. You can pull a ride up on RGTDB and look at his. You know, he's got a 3.91 in Mountain Goats on the 17th of November. 17th of November. Are we past the 17th of November? Yeah, we are. So yeah, on the 17th of November, so 3 days ago, he had a 3.91. Now, that disqualifies him from this event, folks. Yeah, we'll do later, Keith. I'll just message Keith and tell him that I'll DM him to... Come on, bring up the chat window. Here we go. And it really is a shame, folks. I have to be careful what I actually say and what I call out, because there has been some um, chatter in the forums where people have attacked riders for cheating, and that's unacceptable. Any decisions are made by the commissaires. It's not for individual riders or broadcasters like me to accuse anybody of cheating. And I'm not accusing those two riders of cheating. All I'm saying is that they should not be in this event because their previous results disqualify them by a big margin as well. We're not talking like, they were putting in 3.3, 3.4 performances in other races, then yeah, we could probably let it slide. But you can't put in 4 watt kilos results and then expect to race in a 3.2 capped event. It's just not fair on the other riders. It makes a total nonsense of it. You know, and it's something which I champion because I hate to see this. I sometimes it's riders that are misconfigured, but you can tell when it's not a rider that's misconfigured, when they know that the performance they're putting in is not something that they're actually capable of doing. But anyway, as I say, Keith, I'm going to DM Keith later. He's asked me to do so, so I'll send over the details. And what I'll do, folks, is I will give Keith the date and time and event where the results basically were well above the watt kilos these riders are supposed to ride this event for. And once he's got that information, it's then up to the race organisers to decide what to do with that information. I mean, any rider, doesn't matter, where you're coming from. Any rider is capable of high wattages, but if you watch a rider and you look for, okay, where is his threshold kicking in, that gives you a good indication of what that rider's true watt kilo is. Because if a rider's not kicking into the red before he gets to, shall we say, 5 or 6 watt kilos, then there's something seriously wrong if he's claiming to be a 3.2 watt kilo rider. And that's what I spotted. But I also keep an eye on anybody pushing off the front. I keep an eye on the watts in all races, not just in these kind of races, but in all races. I keep an eye on them and watch the watt kilos just to see whether it's what I call an unnatural performance for the race category that they're racing in. And it's very easy to spot. It's not rocket science. I mean, he's apologising, so give him credit. He's apologising, but he really needs to step away from the action now. He needs to drop to the back. He's currently in 3rd place, is he? 5th at the moment, but he needs to drop out of this group and he needs to drop back because he's no right being with these riders. I think the other rider I called out is now, when I say called out, no, he's not. Merlet's still in here as well. So Merlet and Livens are affecting this group. Of that, there's no doubt. And it's not fair. They are much, much stronger riders than anybody else in this group, so people can follow the wheels and get an advantage. I've actually covered races where once pointed out that a rider will likely get disqualified, riders have dropped off his wheels deliberately, and made a gap so that they themselves cannot be sort of like criticised for riding with a rider that's well above the stated watt kilos. as we see, Liven's putting in a 9 watt-kilo effort. So Shim looks like he's making a break for it. Herald following on behind him. Merlet chasing at... What is he doing here? Being called out, why is he not just stepping away from the event? See if I can make... No, he's not doing. That says a lot because he sees the messages on screens and he can't use the excuse that he doesn't understand English. Dropping back now. A little. Ah, well, never mind. It appears, folks, that there's... I hardly hate to announce it, but Shim Shim is also... he has a 396 in a previous 3 watt, 3.96 watt-kilo event. Which should disqualify him as well. But decision for... So I'm going to send all this in to the comments. I was enjoying covering this race, but now I'll be honest, I'm with it. Who else we got? I mean, what I'm doing here now, it appears that almost every rider that I'm sort of like looking at has got the... I mean, it does look like the rider in third place is the rider that is the only genuine rider in the top 3, in the top 4 even. So Arolt, if I'm pronouncing it right, he belongs in this race. But the other 3, Merlet, Shim, and Livens don't. So you got 3 riders in the top 4 that don't belong there. Sorry, 3 riders in the top 5 that don't belong there on the road at the moment. What a shame. What a real shame. Yeah, Shim Shim has got multiple results above the stated Watt key. But sorry, folks, I'm so busy looking at I'm not watching the action on because I'm so busy looking at rider profiles. I mean, I keep a database, so these guys will go in my database, the ones that are over. So Arolt is the true leader of this race. He's got and he's actually won. I think he won the previous race, so he has got pedigree. And yeah, I'm gonna message. Okay, as you can see on screen there, folks, what I've done is I've simply reminded people that it's not my job to decide who gets disqualified and who doesn't get disqualified. My job is simply to have a look at the riders and call out the facts. And the facts for, I mean, Shim, yeah, he is right, to be fair to the lad. He is right. He has his results where he was over 3.2 a good while ago. So there's a case to be made there, but certainly with the other riders, there's no case to be made because Merlet and Livens, the results that where they are well over the watt kilos are recent, and in one case 3 days ago. So they can't claim that, okay, well, that was a previous performance, etc. They know they're over, they know they don't belong here. Anyway, we're coming into the finish here. We're going to stay with these two riders. I'm going to try and zoom out and see if we can't get a good picture of the sprint. Oh, a bit too far. Let's zoom back in again. So there we go. So 1.7 kilometers to go to the finish. Still zoomed in a little bit. So what happens if we go a bit more? It's incredible, folks, because what's happening here is there's Merlet getting involved again. Get out of the way. Totally doing this. And he should be banned for doing this. Because he's been asked to drop back. Whatever, it's not my get to see this. So we'll follow this because I want to see whether Aero can overhaul these riders here. See what he's got left in the sprint. But to my mind, he doesn't even need to sprint because he's already. I mean, just don't chase Merlet. Just let him go. Yep, there we go. Just let him go. Aero is now trying to get on his wheel. Page up. Come on. Come on. I'm going to stay with Aero here because, like I say, he's. Come on. Take the win. Yes, well done. So the genuine rider took the win. Well done. Okay, let's work his way back. Come on. I'm trying to cover. There we go. Trying to cover the other riders coming in, folks, but with this keyboard issue, it's a real struggle. So who's going to take the fourth place? Well, not even fourth place. This will be for second place. So this is for second place, and Bennett took it. Well done, Adrian. Let's see if we can tab down and get the next rider coming in. Not Livens, it's Keith. Now, Livens is probably going to sprint with Keith just for practice, but see if we can highlight Keith, see whether Keith can come in. I mean, Liven should win the sprint because he's like way above Keith in watt kilos. So there we go. Keith comes in. Keith takes third place. I'm saying that's only my feeling. I mean, Keith may decide to register this differently. But it makes a mockery of a 3.2 watt kilo race when this happens. Yeah, that was a good ride from Adrian. Very good ride. Don't know Erolt's first name. One of you can listening and can put it up for me. But I will definitely add him to my database. Gallant into his last 800 meters. He gets into the top position. Yeah. Final downhill slope. Nice course this. It's if you like flat. It's certainly not one for the climbers. But I think one of the reasons why this ride doesn't get kind of turnout I would expect from a ride of this quality is because this is not a one-off where we're seeing riders. I mean, when I was racing it, there were loads of times when riders would pull along the front group and I couldn't keep pace even on the flat section. And the reason being was because the riders that were pulling along the groups were way above the watt kilos they were supposed to be and causing breaks in the packs. And I wasn't the only rider that got disillusioned by it, to be honest. Of coming in, and how many more we got? We just got boats to come in now, and we will wait for the lad to come in. These are the bots, so we're not gonna cover the bots. This is the last rider on the road. You can discount me. So here we go. We'll just watch this lad come in. 1.5 kilometers to go, and then we'll make a wrap for this edition. Now I'm still testing the software, and we've obviously highlighted a couple of glitches this afternoon, but I'm constantly trying to improve the broadcasts, and obviously I need to iron out some of the bugs. So I'll probably choose something else tomorrow, but I am covering live. We're going to be covering Chris O'Hearn's Dubai Adventure, the first stage of the Dubai Adventure. So, and here you can see Boats is just about to lap me as well. There I am on the road in the OTR jersey, about to be lapped. I don't mind at all. Wouldn't happen in real life, but hey. No, I'm actually, I'm really happy to cover these events. Wish we could see more fair racing. Last 300 meters coming up. And it's really nice when riders decide to finish, you know. It would be so easy just to pull out of the event and call it a day because you're last man on the... But it is really nice. And that's one of the reasons why I mention this a lot in my broadcast. It's one of the reasons why I hang around, wait for the riders to come in. There we go. Well done, Boats. Because I feel they've earned it. If they weren't willing to stick around and wait for the event to finish, then so am I. Right, anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let me just see if we can't have a word from our sponsors. There we go. There's the sponsors on screen as well. Home Cycle Clothing, XE Socks and Payload Valley were recent sponsors of our tour throughout. So we like to give them a bit of a shout out. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit that like button. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing for more content. And I'll be back tomorrow. Bye for now.